Have you ever watched Stripes and felt your brain glitch for a second because the US Army was hiding its deadliest weapon inside a motorhome? Not a tank, not a jet, not a secret missile truck, an RV. The kind of vehicle you expect to see parked at a campground with lawn chairs outside a grill smoking and someone complaining about bad coffee. Until it suddenly drops armor plates, pulls out machine guns, launches missiles, and turns into a rolling nightmare. This wasn't just a movie prop. It wasn't just a joke. The EM-50 urban assault vehicle was a full-blown character, a comedy weapon, a Cold War parody on wheels, and somehow one of the most overpowered movie vehicles of the 1980s. What looks like a harmless family camper was secretly designed to invade enemy territory, and the deeper you look, the weirder and more brilliant this thing becomes. So buckle up, because these are the weirdest facts behind the EM-50. The RV that accidentally became a Hollywood legend.
Number 18. The name that already ruins the seriousness. The story strangely begins with a name that almost refuses to be taken seriously. Urban Assault Vehicle. Say it out loud. It sounds less like a classified military weapon and more like something shouted in an overly dramatic toy commercial. And that was not an accident. In Stripes, the EM-50 is officially presented as a top-secret U.S. Army project, but its name immediately undercuts any sense of authority. It tries so hard to sound tactical, modern, and intimidating that it circles right back into comedy. Urban. Assault. Vehicle. It feels like a group of military planners locked in a room throwing buzzwords at a chalkboard until they accidentally created the most generic and funniest designation imaginable. That name quietly tells the audience everything they need to know. This machine will follow military rules on paper, but in reality, it's going to break them all. Before the EM-50 ever fires a weapon, before it drops armor or launches missiles, its name already sets the tone. Official, overconfident, and slightly ridiculous. Exactly like the movie itself.
Number 17. A top-secret weapon that looks like a camper. Most secret military vehicles are designed to intimidate. Sharp edges, dark paint, heavy armor. The EM-50 looks like it's late for a family road trip. At first glance, it resembles a perfectly ordinary motorhome, the kind you expect to see parked at a campground, with folding chairs outside and a grill slowly smoking. And that contrast is the joke. In the world of Stripes, this harmless-looking RV is supposedly one of the most advanced weapons the U.S. Army has ever built. Yet visually, it blends into civilian life with zero effort. No camouflage nets, no stealth coating, no menacing silhouette. Just windows, stripes, and innocence. Until the moment everything changes. Armor plates slide down, weapons snap into place, and the audience realizes they've been tricked. The EM-50 doesn't hide in shadows. It hides in plain sight. By choosing the most boring vehicle imaginable, the filmmakers created the perfect disguise, because no one ever suspects the camper.
Number 16. Built on a real GMC motorhome.
Here's where the absurdity becomes believable. The EM-50 wasn't built on a fake shell or a studio-only prop. It began life as a real GMC motorhome. In the 1970s, GMC motorhomes were considered cutting-edge, front-wheel drive, a low, futuristic stance, a smooth ride that felt more like a luxury car than a camper. They were expensive, stylish, and undeniably real. By using an actual production vehicle, the filmmakers anchored the joke in reality. The EM-50 doesn't look like a cartoon creation. It looks like something that could genuinely exist, which makes every weapon reveal even more shocking. This wasn't a tank pretending to be a camper. It was a camper pretending to be a tank, and that distinction matters. Because once the audience believes the base vehicle is real, they're willing to believe the insanity built on top of it. That single design choice turned a visual gag into one of the most convincing movie machines of the era.
Number 15. A luxury RV turned into a battlefield machine. Before it ever became a weapon, the EM-50 started life as something almost indulgent. The GMC motorhome was designed for comfort, soft seating, wood paneling, a smooth, quiet ride meant for long highways and relaxed travel. This was a vehicle built for retirees and family vacations, not combat zones and rescue missions. And that's what makes the transformation so effective. Under the armor and hidden weapons, the soul of a luxury RV is still there. There's a kitchen just a few steps away from heavy firepower. Comfort exists right beside chaos. In Stripes, this contrast becomes part of the joke. The soldiers aren't charging into battle in a hardened tank. They're rolling into danger inside what still feels like a mobile living room. It's warfare with upholstery, combat with climate control. That absurd blend of comfort and violence turns the EM-50 into something unforgettable. A battlefield machine that never fully stops being a vacation vehicle.
Number 14. Armor plates that drop out of nowhere. One of the most memorable moments in Stripes is when the EM-50 suddenly stops pretending. Windows disappear, panels slide down, and the friendly RV seals itself into a rolling fortress. The transformation is instant. No warning alarms, no dramatic build-up, just a mechanical click and a sudden realization that this vehicle was never what it seemed. Those decorative stripes and side panels were hiding bullet-resistant armor the entire time. From a storytelling perspective, this moment works because it feels like a magic trick. The audience thinks they understand the vehicle, and then that understanding collapses in seconds. It's the RV equivalent of a superhero reveal, mild-mannered on the surface, invincible underneath. Once the armor drops, the EM-50 crosses a line. It stops being a joke and starts becoming a threat, and that shift happens without changing its shape, only its intention.
Number 13. Driving blind with a submarine-style periscope. Once the armor seals the EM-50 shut, a new problem appears. How do you drive when you can no longer see out the windshield? The answer is as ridiculous as it is brilliant. A periscope. Mounted on the roof, this submarine-style viewing tube allows the driver to navigate while completely sealed inside the armored shell. It's military logic filtered through comedy logic. Instead of advanced digital displays or cameras, the solution is a literal spy scope sticking out of the roof. Watching Bill Murray steer an armored RV by peering through a periscope turns a serious military concept into pure visual comedy. But strangely, it also makes sense. If you're going to hide a tank inside a camper, why not borrow navigation tech from a submarine? The EM-50 doesn't just fight on land, it borrows ideas from everywhere. And that's exactly why it works.
Number 12. Machine guns hidden in the front grille. At this point, the EM-50 has already fooled everyone visually, but its most satisfying reveal happens right at the front. The grille. That innocent-looking RV face isn't just decorative, it's a disguise. Hidden behind it are machine guns, waiting for the exact cinematic moment to emerge. 1 second. The EM-50 looks like it's crawling along a campground road. The next, the grille opens, metal shifts, and twin weapons snap into position. It's a perfectly timed punchline. The genius isn't just that the guns exist, it's where they're hidden. The grille is the last place anyone expects firepower. This moment flips the audience's perception completely. The vehicle stops being defensive. It becomes aggressive. From this point on, the EM-50 isn't just protecting itself, it's fighting back. And once those guns come out, every slow-moving RV on the highway suddenly feels suspicious.
Number 11. Flamethrowers where campfires should be. If machine guns weren't enough, the EM-50 takes the joke one step further. Along the sides of the vehicle, near the rear wheels, sit flamethrowers. Yes, flamethrowers. The same spot where you'd expect camping gear, folding tables, or maybe a cooler. Instead, fire erupts. In the logic of Stripes, these weapons transform the EM-50 from a disguised assault vehicle into something almost mythical. It's no longer just shooting, it's cleansing. Visually, the effect is shocking. Flames burst from the sides of a motorhome that still looks like it should be roasting marshmallows. The contrast is extreme, and that's why it works. Campfires become weapons. Warmth becomes destruction. The EM-50 doesn't abandon its RV identity. It weaponizes it.
Number 10. The rear assault ramp nobody expected.
Just when you think the EM-50 is done surprising you, the rear door tells a different story. What looks like a standard motorhome exit suddenly drops down, transforming into an assault ramp. Troops deploy. The vehicle becomes a transport. The joke becomes strategy. And above it, hidden within the roofline, sits heavy firepower, ready to support the advance. This moment is important because it completes the illusion. The EM-50 isn't just a weapon platform. It's a delivery system. It doesn't just fight, it delivers heroes. The RV that once symbolized escape and leisure now becomes the entry point for a full-scale assault. From vacation exit to invasion ramp in seconds. That's the EM-50's defining talent,
turning the most ordinary features into tools of chaos.
Number 9. The roof that turns into a missile launcher.
Just when the EM50 feels completely exposed, the roof delivers its final insult. What looks like a normal RV ceiling quietly opens, lifts upward, and reveals a missile launcher. Yes, missiles, hidden in the roof of a camper. This is the moment where realism officially gives up and comedy takes full control. In Stripes, the roof of the EM50 was supposed to hold luggage, chairs, maybe a cheap satellite dish. Instead, it hides enough firepower to make an enemy base reconsider its life choices. Visually, it's the perfect escalation. The weapons don't just come from the sides anymore, they rise upward. The camper doesn't just defend itself, it dominates the battlefield vertically. RV meets ballistic platform. And somehow, it feels earned. Because by this point, the audience has already accepted the impossible.
Number 8. A full command center inside a motorhome.
If the outside of the EM50 is chaos, the inside is control. Behind curtains and RV walls, a full command center waits. Screens, radios, navigation systems. The joke here is subtle but powerful. You expect plaid fabric and storage cabinets. Instead, you get blinking lights and military coordination. In Stripes, this turns the EM50 from a weapon into a brain. It's not just firing blindly, it's planning, tracking, directing. The same space that smells like road trips suddenly functions like a submarine control room. This duality is key to the vehicle's identity. Comfort on the outside, command on the inside. The EM50 doesn't abandon civilian life. It hides a war inside it.
Number 7. A rolling armory for the misfits.
The EM50 doesn't just carry weapons on the outside, it carries an entire war inside. Hidden compartments, weapon racks, ammo storage. Behind wood panels and RV finishes, the misfits suddenly have access to everything they need. This matters narratively. The characters in Stripes are not elite soldiers, they're screw-ups. The EM50 compensates for that. It turns incompetence into capability, luck into strategy. With the right machine, even the least qualified heroes can pull off the impossible. The EM50 becomes the great equalizer, a mechanical shortcut to victory. And that's the heart of the joke. The army didn't create better soldiers, it created a better toy.
Number 6. Practically indestructible, thanks to comedy logic.
In a realistic war movie, a vehicle like the EM50 wouldn't last long. One direct hit, one explosion, game over. But Stripes isn't interested in realism. It's interested in momentum. Inside the film, the EM50 absorbs punishment like it's made of something stronger than steel. Bullets bounce, explosions barely slow it down. Enemy fire feels more like hail on a tin roof. This is comedy logic at its finest. The misfits survive because their machine must survive. If the heroes are untrained, their vehicle has to be unstoppable. The EM50 becomes wrapped in narrative armor, immune not because of engineering, but because the story demands it. And audiences accept it willingly, because at this point, the EM50 isn't just a vehicle, it's the punchline that refuses to die.
Number 5. The vehicle that saved the final mission.
Without the EM50, the final act of Stripes doesn't exist. The platoon is captured, the situation is hopeless, the heroes are outmatched. Then, the RV arrives. The EM50 doesn't just assist the rescue, it is the rescue. It rolls through barriers, absorbs fire, and deploys its absurd arsenal at exactly the right moments. This is where the vehicle stops being a gimmick and becomes the backbone of the plot. The soldiers don't suddenly become smarter or braver. They simply have the right tool. The EM50 levels the battlefield. It turns what should have been a failure into an impossible victory. In that moment, the RV becomes the real hero of the film.
Number 4. Turning screw-ups into accidental heroes.
The EM50 doesn't make the characters better people. It makes them successful anyway. That's the secret. The soldiers in Stripes don't earn heroism through discipline or skill. They stumble into it. The EM50 acts as a shortcut. With enough firepower, protection, and surprise, mistakes stop mattering. The vehicle allows chaos to succeed. And that's why the story works. The film isn't about personal transformation. It's about absurd empowerment. Give the wrong people the right machine, and watch the system break in their favor. The EM50 isn't just transportation. It's narrative permission. Permission for misfits to win. Permission for nonsense to triumph.
Number 3. Created purely for comedy, not reality.
Unlike many famous movie vehicles, the EM50 was never inspired by a real military program. There were no blueprints, no secret prototypes, no government experiments. It was created for one purpose only: to be funny. Director Ivan Reitman and the creative team weren't interested in building a believable weapon. They wanted a visual joke so strong that it could carry an entire third act. A camper pretending to be a war machine was the purest expression of that idea. Every feature of the EM50 exists to heighten contrast. Comfort versus chaos. Innocence versus destruction. Vacation versus invasion. It's not realism that makes the EM50 memorable. It's intention. The vehicle knows exactly what it is. A punchline on wheels. And that self-awareness is why it still works decades later.
Number 2. How the EM50 became a cult icon. The EM50 was never meant to live beyond stripes, but audiences didn't let it go. Fans latched onto the absurdity, the design, and the idea that something so ridiculous could also be so powerful. Over time, the EM50 became a cult icon. People recreated it, collected memorabilia, talked about it the same way they talked about Ecto-1 or the A-Team van. Because vehicles like this stick. They represent a very specific kind of movie magic. When creativity mattered more than realism, when ideas were bold instead of safe. The EM50 wasn't cool because it was sleek. It was cool because it didn't care. And that attitude turned a one-movie joke into a lasting symbol of 80s cinema. Number 1. The RV that accidentally became a Hollywood legend. When the EM50 first appears in stripes, it feels like a throwaway joke, a sight gag, a funny prop. But by the end of the film, it becomes the emotional and mechanical heart of the story. The heroes succeed because of it. The mission works because of it. And audiences remember the movie because of it. That's how legends are born, not from intention, but from impact. The EM50 didn't chase greatness. It stumbled into it. A harmless-looking RV that turned into a symbol of creative freedom, absurd humor, and fearless filmmaking. It wasn't realistic. It wasn't practical. But it was unforgettable. And in Hollywood, that matters more than anything else. And before we close this file, if you love movie vehicles that feel like they shouldn't exist but somehow became unforgettable, you're in the right place. The EM50 urban assault vehicle was never about military realism. It was about imagination. A reminder of a time when Hollywood dared to ask, what if this worked, instead of, would this make sense? It didn't just help a group of misfits win a mission. It drove straight into pop culture history. Today, when you see an RV cruising quietly down the highway, there's always a small part of your brain that wonders, what if? What if it's hiding something ridiculous? What if it's armed to the teeth? What if it's waiting for its moment? The EM50 taught us that the most memorable icons aren't always the most realistic ones. Sometimes, they're the ones bold enough to be completely absurd.